when casting director Alexa Elfogel told HBO chairman and CEO Chris Albrecht that they wanted to hire an English actor in the part of Jimmy McNulty in The Wire, she remembers his reply was, "You better be right." Albrecht says this was before it was de rigueur to employ British actors for American shows. Ultimately, what a choice. Dominic West was perfect for the part. If you see an episode of Ironside from the 60s, you'll be amazed at Spartan Junkie Palace, not so much as a speck of dirt, let alone a needle or a spaced-out junkie. Yet, realism took decades to arrive on the small screen, and HBO helped. By the time we get to The Wire, nothing is sugar-coated. I was a bit dazed by the pace and complex structure of the first episode, but I was hooked on what I saw as noir TV. The Wire was the TV novel over fives. The scope and ambition of the show dazzled. This was exciting action TV drama that explored the socio-political background with all the force of the boys from the black stuff in Britain 20 years earlier. The main character was the city of Baltimore itself, the run-down streets and the people, the governance and the cultural life, the industrial decline, the drugs and the inevitable violence. Yet The Wire made us see the world from different perspectives and appreciate what it was like to be poor with limited choices in the city. I suspect, like a lot of people, including Barack Obama apparently, my favorite character was Omar Little. Plot spoiler here: when we meet Omar, he is a lone gangster, part street product, part psychopath and all trouble. As the series progresses, we begin to see how smart he is. His life could have been different, he wants to change, and just when the chance of a better life comes along, a random act ends his life. Similarly, when Stringer Bell, the too clever gangster who wants to make everything a business, gets killed, you feel it. These are real people and this is tragedy. Incidentally, I never realized until after the first that Bell, aka Idris Elba, was British too. Wonder what happened to him. In 2009, Chris Grayling made a facile comparison between Manchester and Baltimore, a crass and ill-thought-out analysis, but it demonstrates the penetration of the show into British life. It's a show that is probably too dark, too raw for a lot of people, but it has permeated our culture. The Wire made TV all over the world step up its game. What Jonathan Abrams has done in All the Pieces Matter is interview the people involved in the making of The Wire from inception to final episode. He has edited the interviews and cut them together to produce a cogent oral history of the show. There are brief introductory notes to each chapter, but mostly it's the cleverly spliced interviews that tell the story. It all started when a reporter from the Baltimore Sun, David Simon, and a city cop, Ed Burns, got together. Way back in 1987, Simon wrote a piece for the paper entitled Easy Money, Anatomy of a Drugs Empire, about Melvin Williams, a role model for Stringer Bell. In 91, Simon wrote Homicide, A Year in the Killing Streets, including interviews conducted in a shooting gallery, while a prostitute worked in the background and people were taking drugs. The Corner, A Year in the Life, an inner-city neighborhood, followed in 97. It was Barry Levinson who brought Homicide to NBC series in 94, and The Wire was green light in 2001. The contributors to this book are the actors, the production staff, the executives, the writers and anyone connected to the show. The original idea was to make the city the focus of the story, to look at the broken society in a way that was more incisive than any drama before. As we read the interviews, we get an idea of the way things came together. Wendell Pierce, William Bunk Moreland was the first actor recruited. Photoplates remind us of the key players. HBO were keen on Ray Winston for the part of McNulty. No disrespect to Winston, but thank goodness that didn't come off. We see how the relationships developed between the people involved in the project. Abrams says they all talk about staying in touch. This show meant something special to the cast, but there are divisions here too. Idris Elba was out of money and on his way home until this last audition panned out. For many of the actors, being in this show was closer to their own experience. Sonia Sohn, Det. Shakima Kima Greggs says she grew up in one of the undeserved areas depicted in The Wire. It colored her attitude to playing a police officer. Anyone who has watched the pilot knows that it's complex, and it appears that the sum of actors were equally perplexed when shooting but believed enough to be led. Dominic West reveals that he needed accent coaching for the whole fives. The Wire brought on board some great writers: George P. Pelecanos, Richard Price and Dennis Lehane. Season 1 was about the criminals and the wiretap. 2 changed tack, and that was an issue for some of the actors, as Michael K. Williams' Omar Little reveals. The focus became the death of the blue-collar working class, mostly white. It was about deindustrialization. It wasn't easy to grasp that the end product would link everything. Season 3 tackled the politics of City Hall and the school system, and the decline of a fictional version of the Baltimore Sun were covered in 4 and 5. The final, Michael K. Williams, Omar, took a young woman fresh out of jail, loaded with issues, and got her an acting job. It changed her life. The Wire was alive to the changing face of the city. Pelicanos talks about old-school gangsters and the new breed with no boundaries. Stories asked questions about when you have never been part of society. Where do your values come from? I wasn't sure about this book before I started it, but I came to appreciate that, like The Wire itself, this is an engaging, even engrossing, meticulously collated and put together. The clever thing is allowing people to speak for themselves, which gives the material an immediacy and a real insight into the show. It's not a critique, and it doesn't ask why people love the show, but I can't think that any fan wouldn't enjoy this book. For those who don't know why The Wire was so good, so important for TV, read this to get some idea. If any TV series deserves to be written about, it's The Wire. All the pieces matter. The Inside Story of The Wire by Jonathan Abrams. No exit. Press 9,780,857,302,748 PBK May 2018.